Why, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today I'm going to talk about setting up a bunch of different chat bars. I'm going to do it here with you in the video today. This is on my advanced playlist, so I'm going to assume you already know some stuff, but I will walk you through a lot of the things you need to think about. I'm going to make a bunch of different tabs. I've been meaning to do this here, and I realized this would be a great guide video for those newer players too, of course, but also more experienced or people who want to kind of make a good organization of your tabs. So I'm going to do it all live here in the video, live as I'm recording it, and we'll cover all of it today. If this does help you, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, as always. All right, so the first thing that we need to talk about here before we get really going on this, okay, is to move away from the water fountain and turn down the music. All right, now with that distraction out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and check out, we're gonna set up this, all right? So the first things you need to know about the chat thing, I've talked about this some in basics, but let me just go over it really fast for those who might wanna know, how do I get my background dark, right? Because some people don't like it with that like looking see-through look, right? You just go into the chat options here and it's this draw thing, okay? So if you don't like it like this, you can just draw and make it larger. Also, this is where you can go and you can change the colors of the different channels you want to use, as well as their size and font, which I may mess with more at the end of the video, but today we're going to start with just setting up these things, all right, tabs. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind is you're always going to have three tabs that they start you with. They start you with a general tab, a combat tab, and an IMs tab. This is your private messaging, direct messages, you talk to people, okay? The IMs tab, you really don't want to ever mess with, okay? The general tab, you also really don't want to mess with, all right? So keep that in mind when you're doing this, and I understand that this is kind of small, so I will try to make sure that I say things out loud and read out loud, so if it's a little small on your screen, you know, you can see it better, all right? So if you right-click the General tab, we get a couple options here. And in fact, I'm going to do it right on top of my character because that blue background will make it a little easier to read. So we've got a couple different ones, right? You got Rename tab. Don't rename General. Just leave General normal, all right? You got Create New tab. This is one we're going to be using a lot in this video, okay? You got Change Filters. That is particularly changes depending on what tab you're on. And then you got change text colors, and there's chat logging, which we're not going to go into chat logging in this video. We're setting up our chat thing to be as ideal as we can as someone who plays the game a lot. I'll have one or two things additionally that I'll add as a content creator that I use on here, but most of this will be stuff that you will want to use as a player, especially if you play all the time or you plan to play more. This hopefully will help you out nicely. So the first thing is, how many tabs can you make, right? So I'm pretty sure it will limit you to the amount of tabs. There it is. That actually is the limit. I just hit it. So you see it doesn't have more options. So you can have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6 extra tabs on top of your IMs and your generals. But at this time, I'm actually going to delete all of my extra ones. And I know you guys are like, what are you doing? Because I'm going to walk you through this entire process. This is an advanced guide video. I have 4 different guide playlists on the channel for LOTRO. I have one that's basics, one that moderate, and then advanced guides. And that's what this one is today. And again, I have other ones that are more to the point on just basic how to make one tab, that kind of thing. You can watch those. This is the more in-depth advanced video. I'm going to show you everything and all the tabs I'm going to make. I also have one guide playlist called 101 for Dummies. That is a play off the old book, if you know what I'm talking about, and help people out. So we're going to start with this. First thing, General tab. Hover Change Filters, all right? I recommend you leave pretty much everything on General tab. There's a couple things you could remove, right? If you don't want to see it, if you don't want to see world chat, you can uncheck it. Whatever is checked on the right side will show up. So really fast, I'm going to try to go through and explain what all of these are. All right, ready? Here we go. Achievements. This is something that you achieve in the game. It will pop up in the chat. You want to leave that on general, most likely. Combat enemies, combat events, combat players. This is stuff to do with combat. I'm not going to put that on my general. I'm going to put that into a combat tab, okay? Emotes, this is, well, what it sounds like. It's an emote. Errors, this is if there's a problem and something doesn't go right or doesn't open and it give you an error name or something. You want to leave probably both of these on in general. Event broadcast, you want to definitely leave in general. This is like an area with an event going on. Fellowship is when you're chatting in Fellowship. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it in general because, again, I like my general to kind of have pretty much everything. But you could remove this because I'm going to make a special tab made for just Fellowship and raiding. I'm gonna have another tab special for Kinship. I'll explain all that in a minute. All right, Kinship, that's your Kinship, obviously. Looking for Fellowship. All right, in fact, you know what? I'm gonna I'm going to do something real quick here, because you know what? It'll be a lot easier for you guys to see what I'm talking about. Let's just go on to the IAMS tab, and there, now you'll be able to read without people writing. A little bit cleaner for you to see. All right, looking for fellowship. That is the looking for fellowship. I believe looking for fellowship is world server wide, from what I remember. It could be regional. The difference, by the way, just to answer for those newer folks who are playing the game, usually regional would be a location, right? So, like for example, in Breland, that's like a region. So if you use the region chat, it's only going to be here. I'll explain that in a second. The world chat, you're going to see anywhere in the world you'll be able to read it. Okay. So keep that in mind here. I'm going to stay on that one. So let's keep going on the filters. So I'm looking for fellowship, I believe, is worldwide, like world chat is. Leaderboards, that's something that pops up occasionally for, it's kind of like event broadcasts, but I just leave it on there. It's rare to be used. Okay, loot for your fellowship, loot for yourself. I'm going to make a special loot tab that I'm going to show you in this guy video, but that is basically anything you earn by picking up off a dead NPC, or you get in a box when you finish an instance, or aka dungeon. For those, we use instances in LOTRO as the term. So these are all things you're going to have to think about and keep in mind, okay? OOC is a type of chat. A lot of people used to use it in player versus monster player. I think a lot still do. It's a regional chat from what I remember, so it should be only in the region. I will link in the description, by the way, just so you guys know, a Wikipedia article from the LOTRO wiki that will give you all the details on exactly what every single one of these are, if you want to check that out after, if you forget what I say, that kind of thing. Officer, this is for kinship, okay? This officer in the kinship can chat in this channel, and it will only show up. So that could be a good one to have separate, right, for you or whatever. Quest, if you complete a quest, this will give you the information that says you completed it, blah, blah, blah. Roleplay, it's kind of, think of it like emotes. It's just basically a special channel to roleplay in. This is going to be probably used more so on roleplay servers, but we might use it on here on Glamdring as well with my kinship. Raid, this is if you're in a raid, okay, similar to how fellowship functions, but the raid instead. Regional is a chat, literally for the region. We already explained that. Say is obviously something that you, when you talk, it shows up right around you, right? Standard is a message system. I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it might have something to do with the IAMs and stuff, but no, that's Tel. Tel is IAMs. Standard, it has some other things it has to do. Again, you could look at it's not super important, but I leave it on with general, okay? But there we go. Trade is a worldwide, okay? This is basically a trade channel. These special user channels, I have a special video on how you use these. You don't really need to worry about them, but I just leave them on in general anyway. And world chat, I leave on in general, okay? So that's about it. So now let's go ahead and start making some tabs. All right, so we already created one tab. So the first tab I'm going to make is going to be dedicated to my kinship. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say rename tab. I'm going to put kinship, okay? So this is going to be chatting for my kinship. Now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to chat filters and everything will be pretty much off. For some reason, they always leave on event, broadcasts, and regional. I'm turning both of these off. All I want to see in kinship, all right, this is all I want to see, is I want to see kinship and officer. I'm going to keep those in the same one, so I can read whatever they say in these two, okay? So that's what I'm going to have for that tab. Boom, there's the first tab that I recommend that you all make. All right, next tab, all right? I'm going to create a new tab, all right? And by the way, you can move these tabs around by dragging and dropping. You can even take them out and use them in different spots, but I tend to like to leave them in their certain locations, all right? Now, the next tab that I want to make is going to be for fellowship and raids, okay? So I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to type, all right, fellowship, let's make sure I spell this right, and raid. Boom, there it is, perfect. I'm going to go into filters. I'm going to turn off a few things here. So I'm going to have on, for this, fellowship, all right? I'm going to have on raid, and I think that's all I want for this tab. Basically, so I'm just chatting with them. I'm not gonna do loot in this one because I'm gonna have a special tab for loot. You could add loot in if you'd like to do this. You'd like to have it all in the same one. That's something you could do. So pretty much, I mean, that's about it. That's, I think, what I'm gonna do there, okay? The next one I'm gonna make is a loot tab. So I'm gonna say create new tab. There's a new tab. I'm going to rename it. Oh, I just created another tab. Well, that's all right. Let's see, rename tab. This one is going to be loot. All right, so in the loot tab, I'm going to go into filters. And I'm going to leave on loot for myself and for my fellowship. All right. So those are the 2 I went on for this one. And you could put like other things too, but I'm just going to do those 2 for now. All right. So wonderful. There's that one. The next one I'd like to make is I'm actually going to make a combat tab. All right. This is another good one to have. You automatically will start with one. So you could just customize the one it starts with. If you didn't already have, you should have already had one of those. There we go. Create tab. And I'm going to rename this tab. All right. This one's going to be combat. And I'm going to go into filters. And basically, I'm going to turn on combat enemies, combat events, player events, and not that one. I'm also going to turn on, let's see. I think that's everything I want for the combat. Just double checking. OCC, okay. That looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to do the combat for that. So perfect. Now I'll be able to see combat events and what happened in certain fights, that kind of thing. All right, now we're almost done. We're almost done. So I'm going to also create another tab. All right, and I think I can make one more after this. This one is going to be for roleplay. All right, or basically, you can even call it chatting roleplay, right? I'm going to put chatting. All right. Maybe I'll just put chat. I kind of like chat better. I'm just going to put chat. All right. So in chat, I'm going to go into my filters. And what I'm going to turn on for chat is I'm going to turn on say. All right. I'm going to turn on. Now tell, if I put tell on, it would show up in the IMs. But I'm not going to do that one for this particular one. I'm going to do role play. All right, I'm going to do emotes, and let's see, the other one I want to put on here. I could go ahead and put fellowship and kinship chat. I may add those later. All right, so obviously this guy right here, this is one of the NPCs, I believe, talking. Now I can see what he's saying. All right, so I'm going to keep these in their own separate spot. And you see why the general one's kind of nice to keep everything, because then you'll never miss something. You always check general. Yeah, I'm pretty sure standard. I'm trying to remember if standard does something for this kind of like area. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there too. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. Emotes. Yeah. That's what I'm going to go for. All right. So that's just chatting. So that'll be someone close by. So by the way, just so you know, when I go hi and it shows up, mine actually pops up over my head. It's called floating chat bubbles in the UI settings if you want to turn that on. It's kind of a fun little addition to the game. I really think it adds a lot personally to have that float over your head. All right, at this point we're getting pretty close to being what I want. The last one I'm going to put on here is going to be a world chat. Now I think I can only create one more tab, right? Oh no, I can create yes, I can create 2 more. Sweet, awesome, good. I need 1 more for something else. All right, so now this one, it always shows up as tab. All right, I'm going to rename this one as world. Okay, so this is communicating with the world. Now with this one, I'm actually going to turn on some different types of filters for this one. All right, I'm going to leave on world chat down here at the bottom. I'm going to turn trade on because that's the type of world chat. All right, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn on regional for this one as well, because basically I'm talking. I'm going to turn on OOC for this one. Leaderboards, why not? I'll leave it on there. I don't know if that'll matter. Looking for fellowship, I'm definitely going to leave that one on here because this will basically be my communication to the rest of the world. This is a good way to, obviously, too, if you kind of separate these things so you could just play with just your kinship that day without being distracted by world chat. Have a tab dedicated to world chat, looking for fellowships, looting. Sorry, not looting. Looking for fellowships, all that kind of jazz, right? Event broadcast, I'll go ahead and put that in there. Error messages, I'm just going to leave that on general. And achievements, I'm just going to leave on general. All right, so there we go. I've got event, broadcasts, looking for fellowship, the leaderboards, OOC, RP, I put on the other one, regional, say I'm going to keep on the close chat, and trade world. All right, I'm very happy with this setup. That's my world chat. Okay, so now we got different setups here for different types of things. And again, you kind of see roleplay I did here and the different things for chat. All right, now we got one last thing that I'm going to add. And also, leave your comments. Is there one you would add? Another one that you would add? But another one I'm going to probably put on here. Let's see here. There's the tab. All right, actually, is there a limit to creating tabs? Yes, there is a limit. Okay, we were right from the beginning. I'm just double checking myself. We are going to do one more here. I'm going to rename this one. Now, this is actually one that I use. I call this one Patreons. This is actually how I make this is for me as a content creator, how I make some end stuff for you guys. So basically on this one, I just put my user chats because that's kind of how I do my cool little end card for you guys. All right. So that's one's just for me on the side there. So now I'm pretty much set up. Now you could do it however you want to set this up with the filters and stuff. Again, combat filters is the one I'm going to leave off. General is going to have pretty much everything except for combat. All right. So with that, I've got general. I've got fellowship and raid. I have my kinship. I'm actually going to move kinship over. So general, kinship, fellowship. We will put up here. I will put chat here. We're going to put world. Actually, I'm going to put world on the far left here. So this is however you want to organize it. So I've got general world. Okay. I've got kinship, raid, chatting with people just for fun. And then combat. We'll put combat and loot. There we go. And my Patreon one, oh, I seem to have messed up. You kind of have to like move them around to get them into the right spot where you want them to be. And again, IAMS doesn't like to move, so you're gonna have to keep moving it there. I like IAMS being over on its side by itself there. So that's a pretty good setup, right? So we got general, kinship, just chatting, fellowship. I'd like to move this one over. Can I do that? Yeah, there we go. All right. World, combat, stuff, loot, and then my Patreon one for doing side things. So now I'm pretty much set up. As I go through these, you're going to be able to see different things. You'll notice that it does refresh depending on who is chatting and stuff. So world chat, you're always going to see all sorts of things going on with chat and conversations. Fellowship, raid, obviously, again, I'm just going to be, if I'm in a fellowship or raid, I'll see chat here. Kinship, the worldwide chat, again, that's going to have all the stuff without a bunch of the filters come from general. And again, I think it's really good personally to leave general as pretty much completely everything except for maybe combat stuff. You can always go to your combat filter when you're fighting to see what happens with your combat. And then you can do your loot and everything's all set up very nicely. I'm very happy with this setup. This is how I like to set it up. So again, leave your comments. How do you guys like to set it up? But hopefully this helped you guys out as a more advanced guide video on setup. Now, I really, really wish you could take this and copy it over with the command where you can copy your UI layout to other characters. But you have to do this every character. But hey, you know what? Once you got it, you can kind of take some screenshots of what your filter settings were or look at this video you're watching right now. And then you're able to kind of go through and mess with stuff. Now, one last thing for those who need to remember this. When you change using this little filter button, you can use commands to switch, like /fellowship, and it'll start chatting in fellowship. Okay, you can see you can switch. Oh, sorry, it might be chat fellowship. Again, I'll link the wiki with that information below if you need those commands. But I just like to click the bubble and just go to fellowship. All right. Now, if you change it on general, look what happens when I go to the fellowship tab. It stays on say, so you change it to fellowship or to kinship. Or raid, which would be output channels raid, right? So you will have to keep that in mind. They will hold on to it while you're in. So if I just go through right now and do this, and then I go to world and I do output to world chat, combat, it doesn't really matter because it's just info, loot's just info. Those are, but so now you have this information, right? All set up ahead of time and you're good to go. But you do have to keep in mind that when you log out, this usually all goes back to say. So when you get on here, you will have to click this little bubble and switch to your different chats, but it'll hold it while you're logged in at least. So that's kind of good. All right. Well, with that, my friends, I hope this helped you guys out. Again, it was me kind of just doing this while I talked it out for you so you can kind of know how this works. I think it's important to show. And again, I really recommend this kind of layout and setup. I really like it personally. I like Fellowship Raid being one channel. I like Kinship being one channel. I like the chat where you can talk with says and emotes, and then emotes will show up. You perform a flip. If you look at I go to Kinship, nothing's there. General will show it because it has everything, right? I like World being its very own thing because if I don't want to be bothered by World chat or what people are talking about or whatever, or I'm not looking for a Fellowship, or I'm not doing raid, that kind of stuff. Now, you might be someone who doesn't like to stick all of those in the same tab. Maybe your third tab, the Patreon one I made, maybe you make that one called Looking for Fellowship, or you make that one called Trade, and you just make that tab Trade and Looking for Fellowship, all right? Now, again, remember, the filter only starts showing stuff once you have them tagged on the filter. So if I don't have Kinship tagged on this one and someone types, and then I turn it on, it will not show up what they typed while I was logged in. It'll only show everything after you checked it. So that's another good thing to kind of keep in mind with the more advanced how things work. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments, of course. I'd be happy to help. And also, you can join our Discord. We'd be happy to help you as well. And, by the way, thank you to my wonderful Patreons right here for their support. I appreciated that greatly. I thank you, Reb, for being a Royal Guardian. And also, I believe I have not updated this. Thank you also to Ironshield. Or Elraandor for being a Royal Guardian as well. I gotta update this little page here. But you guys have a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth. I will see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. And again, I hope this helps out. Now I gotta go and do this on every single one of my characters. So, yeah, well, that would be a nice little addition if they updated that, so it would hook to the slash command to get your LUT on your screen, right? All right, guys. Well, again, thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, as always, at your service and your families. And I will see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. Stay happy, my friends. Baruch Hazard!